Hello, and welcome to Spotlight, where the art is fresh and the artists are fresher. If this is the first time that you're tuning into Spotlight, then sit tight, grab yourself a few drinks, snacks, chai, pakode, and whatever it is that you like. Because here I'm going to be talking to a lot of artists from around Mumbai about themselves, about their art, about why did they start doing what they're doing, and a lot of more interesting things. It's going to be like a podcast web series, and you're going to have a lot of fun. So let's get started. Hi Mansi, welcome to BOT Spotlight.
Hello, Palak. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. So Mansi hasn't performed at any of our open mics before because I've set that line for a lot of our performers that they have. This is the first time that I'm going to see you perform, that a lot of our audience is going to be able to see you perform. And I think that's very interesting and exciting. Mansi does list poetry, which up until this conversation I did not know existed. Shame on me, I know. And she also loves making lists, and according to her, her love for list poetry comes from her love for making lists. And unlike a lot of us, she actually ends up following through on the list and makes realistic lists. Tell me your normal process of writing something new.
I really want to say I have a process, but I don't. I'm not. I'm not very disciplined per se in my art, in my craft.
This
Um,
comes from somebody who writes list poetry and likes
I
making lists.
yeah. So it's weird because a lot of times I end up not even writing. I end up like just audio recording something.
Hmm.
So most of the times I write, I'm either really triggered by something, but I don't know where to put all that emotion. If I feel myself settling into a certain kind of writing, I try to actively break that. Like if I've written about heartbreak for too long, I'm just going to be like, no, enough, move out, write about something else. While I want to say I have a process, I don't really have a structure to the way I write. Most of it just comes um, organically out of heavy emotion.
So now I'm confused because you said a couple of things. So you said that you every time an incident happens, whatever comes to your mind, you write. So can you elaborate for us one incident? And two, does it like do you write as soon as you read something? If not, then like from the process of you reading something or coming across something to you actually coming to an idea, what happens?
So there are two scenarios that play out. Sometimes I get the words right away,
Hmm.
which happened very recently. I don't want to talk about what exactly the incident is because it's too
Okay.
controversial. I don't want to like get into it. But
Hmm.
it's very public. It's the most recent. That's on every news channel. That should not be on every news channel. It's the hounding of people.
Thanks for being
It's
so vague.
but this one day, I think this last week, just some days back, I woke up in the morning and something just snapped, I just got so upset and my voice, like I said, was shaking. I'm not like exaggerating this. I was really angry, I was really upset. And I couldn't even write what I was thinking. So I just like picked my phone, I just started my voice recorder,
Okay.
and that's my final piece. Like I don't think I hardly edited anything after that. That was my piece.
So
So
you're like a
uh,
pro. You get it right in one time.
no, that's very few times. The thing, I I ended up liking what I wrote. I thought that it conveyed my message. I think it said what I wanted to say.
Hmm.
But other times, like you asked, if I read something, sometimes I have two, three poetry pieces going on in my head. So I don't just start jotting down the ideas and try to collate them. I think okay, 5 more months, even if it takes 5 more months, let it take 5 more months. Because by that time, I know it'll be crystal clear here and I'll just write it down.
Okay.
So
That's
that's how it works.
very that's very interesting because I was talking to another performer before you, Pranaya, and her process is exactly the opposite. She just writes. whatever comes to her mind, and then
Yeah.
finally everything just comes together in front of her into one piece. And for her, it's more like wanting to write right now. But for you, if I'm not wrong, if you let it sit, you let the idea sit, you
Yeah.
let the internal
Yeah.
processing happen, and
Yes.
then it finally comes out.
Yes.
Very,
That's
very, very
exactly what I
interesting.
was.
Every single time that I read something, and um, I get really annoyed, and I want to do something about it. I want to make a change, and it's mostly just anger. I want to ask you that I know you're equally shaken by issues, small or big, to
Yeah.
anybody out there. How do they actually turn into words that make sense and are also nice to read, and not just angry outbursts on Twitter?
Um,
Sorry, it was a
Honestly,
long question.
no, that's that's fine. So I think some of it is very, it's prose like also. It's
Hmm.
not poetry. Like a lot of the earlier pieces I've written, like say 2017, 2018, they're not very, they don't have a nice flow to it. I probably won't bring them up again in life. I'll probably let them be where they are just for myself. But I can definitely say this in the recent 1 year, it has come from a very bad personal experience.
Hmm.
In the sense, I was very passionate about everything that was happening around me, especially 2019. It was also election time, and it was a rage, and I had a lot of emotion about a lot of things, and I think that anger didn't always come out in a good way. I got told I was being too aggressive, so I just sort of let go, and I was in that weird cocoonish phase for a while, where I was like, fine, whatever. I'm not going to be too loud about this. And I think somewhere that made me lose myself a little. I lost a lot of friends as well, but I think I lost myself as well, because talking about things is very important to me.
Hmm.
And I think now I've come to a point where I've realized that I was not okay with the way I was called aggressive or whatever, right? If you are actually my friend like you claim to be, then you will hear me out. So I think I got judged right away. But this 1 year taught me that, especially when it comes to social issues, you have to take your time. So the short story of whatever I just went into is that I take my time. I don't jump the gun. I am angry about something, but I have learned to not talk about it right away. Like, let it, like, see what is happening, because you will never know the whole story given today's situation. You
Correct.
will never know what's happening, and it's impossible for you to be in the right about it also, because there are so many different variables
Hmm.
that maybe one variable is not something that you want to support, but you might end up supporting. I mean, I'm sort of like getting vague here, but you know what I'm trying to say?
Yes,
Like, there are
yes.
so many variables, so many factors, so many parameters that count, that you really have to take your time and let it sit with you for a while. Let it sit with people also for a while.
Hmm.
I think I have realized that I want to use subtlety. So the way I write is very, um, like no, the latest piece I wrote. Um, I was sort of saying I did something. Like, I actually want to say you did something, but I want to say I did something, because that's the truth. If I say society is messed up, I'm part of society, and I need to own up, right? I need to
Correct.
own up that you and I, all of us, we're equal stakeholders in society.
Hmm.
So I messed up too. If something's happening,
Hmm.
the first step should be for me to be able to take the onus upon
Honest.
myself. So I wrote this a couple months ago. It's called A Note to the Red Lipstick. A Note to the Red Lipstick. A swatch of red drawn carefully on the back of my hand, bright like the promise it held, exciting like the secret it was. With a quivering mind, with steady face, I applied it to my lips, only to look unchanged. Hmm, the magazines had lied. 13-year-old me looked at the pigment, renouncing in my mind the person I would be if this lipstick ever became a part of everyday. The red reeked of conformity and pretense, and I fought through childhood to prove that I didn't. A swatch of red drawn carefully on the back of my hand, a torrent of thoughts storming in the back of my mind, beliefs crashing against each other like waves who were never told they could be anything else. The red makes me like other girls. 7 years. 7 years of feeling the need to pit myself against the girls I grew up with and host a beauty pageant in my head while constantly feeling like I was secretly better or detesting the red and the way it looked on my face. 7 years of falling in love when I heard the words, "You're not like other girls." As if I was better than my sisters who sashayed along in the red they wore, in the red they owned, as if they were any less than goddesses. 13-year-old me would look at the pigment with distrust. It took me 7 years to see that red smelled of unity and freedom. Like amortentia, it smelled like choice. At 20, I asked other girls about their favorite shades, hoping each stroke would make me a little more like them. Thank
Thank you. That was amazing. That was very, very, very
you.
good. Tell me briefly about what is the thought behind this piece.
Um, like I've said in one of those stanzas, I think growing up, I think it happens to boys as well, but I think it happens a lot to girls. You just end up in this weird contest, in this weird competition with people around you, um, because you feel the need to be something. Like, for example, I remember distinctly my best friend. She looks great in kajal. Okay, so back in ninth, 10th, when we started first exploring the idea of kajal or whatever, and she would put it on, and I know some guys who liked her, and I liked one of those boys, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna put kajal too. And I think around that age, you sort of just get into that.
Attention.
You want attention, you want validation, you want to be appreciated, and you don't know how to do that while staying true to yourself. And it's fine because you don't know. You're not old enough to know. It's not something to be ashamed of. It's just something that happens, right? And I think there's this whole narrative where the idea of being a girl who likes to wear makeup, or the idea of being a girl who likes to do the conventionally feminine stuff, is looked down upon. I just think there's this whole narrative created. Like, I have been told so many times. So I grew up a tomboy, right? So I didn't enjoy wearing red lipstick. And when I saw people around me getting comfortable with it, but I wasn't, and I saw them getting attention, I was like, I'm better than them. I'm not wearing lipstick to make myself better. So, for whatever goddamn reason, I had this superiority complex in my head that just because I don't like makeup, somebody else who does like makeup is lesser than me for I don't know what reason. And I think that is something that you get conditioned with over
Yeah.
your teenage years. It's just something that you end up thinking as if it's your own thought, but it's not really. So, like I say in the poem, I think 2, 3 years ago, I realized that I am not in a competition with any girl around me. And she is as amazing as I am, and I am as amazing as she is. And there doesn't need to be a divide. Like,
Hmm.
there is no reason. Like, there is no reason I should start feeling a weird tinge of jealousy because somebody else looks better in red lipstick than I do. And I think at some point, if you're lucky, you realize it's happening and you try to actively break out of it. And I think that's what I'm trying to do here because I was somebody personally who's never been a fan of makeup growing up. I didn't. So now I do. I'm comfortable with some of it, but I'm still not an active user. But today, I want to write an ode to the red lipstick. I want to say that it feels like choice. So I use the word amortentia for anybody who's not a Harry Potter person here. The word amortentia comes, you're not. So amortentia is the love potion from Harry Potter, and the concept is it will smell of whatever you like.
Oh,
So if
okay.
you like the smell of cinnamon,
Hmm.
it's customized. It'll smell like cinnamon to you.
Ah, okay.
So that's where this piece came from. That feeling of uh, realizing that it's choice and realizing that it's all equally valid, and I can't be the one to actively put somebody down.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. I'm just going to chime in before you go on to the second one. For me personally, in my family, being able to carry off makeup and being able to do it well and put makeup well is looked up to, and like you, I have detested makeup. Like, for some reason, I thought that if I rebel against the idea that you have to put makeup, I'm going to be the superior one, and I don't need no makeup to like make me look better. It's only the last year or two, I think, that I've actually started putting lipstick also, and kajal, like you said. The society just feels like they have so much leeway to tell us what
What
is
to
right and
do?
what to do
Yeah.
and what not to do. Yeah.
So the title says "Why My Poetry Suffers," and one of them I wrote, like I think a month or two ago, and one of them I wrote very recently, I think last week. And I think I'm just going to keep making a series of this in the coming days because my poetry tends to suffer a lot of times for different reasons. Why my poetry suffers. One, I look at myself in the mirror and say, when I should say, you're brilliant, or you've got this at the very least. Two, I have a running list of mistakes I have made and no knowledge of how to forgive myself for them. Three, my last therapy session was 9 months ago. Four, I shut myself in a box with a label taped to its flaps and refuse to allow myself to be more. Five, I have several letters waiting as drafts that I'm going to keep writing and rewriting and never send. Six, art should be honest, and honesty would mean writing about people that I have locked away in the dark spaces of my mind. Seven, writing about some heartbreaks feels like inviting an old shame to make home in my body. 8. My breakdowns take away my breath and any words I might have to explain them. 9. Democracy seems to be dying and no amount of poetry feels potent enough to save it. 10. The world is aching and I feel too small to write about its pain. Thank you.
Thank you. You're not too small to write about the world and its pain, because if every one of us writes, maybe there's some hope.
That's the idea. So the idea of this one is to write about things that are going wrong with me, because of which I'm not feeling okay, right? So I have a point here that says my last therapy session was 9 months ago. So there is this concept that if you're in grief, if you're in pain, if you're in sorrow, if something's going really horribly in your life, you can create better art, right? Like from pain you get a hit for the real art, which might be true. I'm not denying that at all. But I think somewhere it also ends up glorifying or romanticizing being in that place, being not okay. It's okay to acknowledge it. I think it's okay to have things born out of it because all of that is very natural. Like, I'm not at all saying that shouldn't happen. I just want to actively say that, if you need to go to therapy, go to therapy.
It was great talking to you, and
Love.
it was such a pleasure just listening to you perform.
I'm glad.
I hope we get to see more of you, and now that we're doing this virtually, you can be there in every one of them with no excuses.
I
Um, okay, thank you so much.